Hello, thank you for joining me. So in this video I'd like to show you a couple different methods on inserting a countertop on a countertop wall. The one method that you're looking at here is where we've taken just a regular wall and made a cut inside that wall of specific dimensions, of course, and we put a countertop element into that. And another way is just take a wall and make it actually just go up to a level, the countertop level, maybe 36 inches tall, and have it terminate there, and then put the countertop on top of that. So let's explore both of those methods. But before we get started, you probably want to go to the Revit or the Autodesk Seek site and download the countertop element. If we click on that, you'll see it's called a countertop island, 48 inches in depth. All those parameters can be changed. So if I can show you, if I go to my ground floor and actually click that on that element, I have the ability to move those around. Each one of these triangular items are grips or stretch grips that you could use to stretch your countertop around. Now I do have some locked elements here in place, so we'll go ahead and take those out, and just to demonstrate that, I can move this wall back a little bit out of that cut, just a little bit, and maybe shorten it a little bit too. Maybe from 48 inches to that. And if you go back to that, camera view, now you can see that the countertop is much reduced. So it does give you that flexibility. If you go to the Revit Autodesk Seek site and seek that item out, you'll need that for your test on Tuesday too. So that's one element, but let's go ahead and change that wall type. Not just a wall type, but let's go ahead and change the parameters on that wall and make that profile change and see what that looks like. So if I go back to my ground floor, I created a section view of that so I can look at that square on. If we double click inside of that, we can see that wall. And just to show you how that looks like, if we just go to Edit Profile, it's a simple rectangle with inside of that. So, and just to demonstrate, I'm going to go ahead and erase that rectangle and just put it right back in and show you how that works. Of course, if we go to the green check mark, the constraints that were on that countertop are no longer there, and we'll just delete it. But let's go back to that reception here and take a look at that. And yeah, it kind of disappeared. Our wall becomes opaque again, and yeah, our countertop's kind of embedded into it. Okay, so let's go back to that section view and take a look at that. The way you do that is, just like anything else you edit in Revit, and you have to click on the edge of the plane you want to edit, the edge of that wall to do that, to select it. And once you select it, go to Edit Profile, go to Rectangle, put a rectangle in here, and let's say we want to make that rectangle a very specific height and width and other parameters here. We can go ahead and do that. So one thing we might want to do is take the bottom of that this line here and make that a very defined distance. So if you click it out, we'll get a dimension associated with that. Let's go ahead and click in that double dimension, reduce the one down. And if you click on the bottom of that line, we should be able to take that, and we'll make that maybe 32 inches. And another dimension. Let's go ahead and click on this this line. Let's make this specifically maybe 5 feet. And you can have those dimensions there if you like as a permanent dimension. You're welcome to do that too. It's easy enough to do, and it kind of hides on all the other views that we're doing. That way we know exactly what we're doing here. Let's make this a very specific width, and we'll make this a specific distance from an edge of that wall. So one more time, we can do something very a little bit different by going to the Align dimension. Click on that wall, or that line, that magenta line, and this line. Put in a permanent dimension there, so when we click on that line, it's not going to give that us that to change, but we can change this dimension around and actually change that to a specific value. That's going to be 3 feet. Now the reason this dimension probably didn't work is that there are other constraints associated with this sketch and with the wall that's in there. So you have to keep that in mind. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you have to know what your constraints are, because it isn't always apparent when you're dealing with Revit Architecture what all the constraints are. But Revit Architecture does give you the ability, when you do have a conflict there, to go ahead and delete those constraints and then put those back in there. So it doesn't necessarily cause you big errors, but it does give you that ability to make changes if you needed to. So let's go ahead and click on this line, make this a permanent dimension. Take this dimension as we've done before, line out up over here so we have a single dimension, and let's go ahead and click back on that line so that dimension becomes editable, and maybe make that 10 feet. Once we do that, if you go to the check mark, now we have that hole in the wall. Let's go back to our camera view, take a look at that. Now we have our countertop already in there. So let's go back to our section 3 I think it is, and let's do some alignments. We want to align the bottom of this as our stack element to the bottom of our countertop. And let's go ahead and lock that into place. Now let's go back to our ground floor plan and take a look at it here. Remember, we can stretch this, so let's go ahead and stretch that out a little bit, make that a little bit more sticking out into the reception area, out into the custom area, maybe less into the reception area. Now let's use our alignment tool and go ahead and align the edge of our countertop to the edge of our wall here to the countertop as a way to stretch that and make it fill that whole area. So clicking this is our static element, the edge of the countertop is our other element that we want to move. Again, over here, let's go ahead and lock those into place. And if we click on the countertop itself, if you don't get it otherwise, it should show you what those locks are if we have those in place. It doesn't really have it, so let's go ahead and stretch that back out. Go back to the alignment tool again. That is our static element. This is the movable element, and let's go ahead and lock that into place. So again, if we select the countertop now, we see all the constraints in there. And we can define this even further by putting more dimensions on this in order to constrain these edges if we wanted to do that. But I believe it's demonstrable enough. We've shown enough in this thing. Let's go back to our camera view and see what that looks like. And it's pretty close to what we had before. So thank you for joining me. In the next video, we'll talk about how to create a wall going up to the countertop height.